My dear audience, today I'm presenting you a truly tasty PC case in white with some pretty nice integrated ARGB lighting, and that at a fairly good price. It sure has been a while since I've last taken a look at a case by this manufacturer. The case in question today is the Be Quiet PureBase 500DX, the white version. At the time of making this video, you have to spend about $100 on it, which as always, I more or less find to be the sweet spot when it comes to quality and features. In today's video, I'll therefore shed some light on the drawbacks, as well as the positive aspects of this white box. Included are the user manual and of course the obligatory accessories such as screws and whatnot. In terms of aesthetics, I gotta say it's slightly different, yet design-wise still fairly sleek and minimalistic. They have not really gone for something crazy here, which many see as a good thing, others however will be disappointed. Generally speaking, I find the looks to be totally okay, even though I personally slightly dislike the rounded look of the front panel. That of course is a complete matter of taste, which is why I never include looks in the final rating, so to speak. What has been done really well is the integrated ARGB lighting with 2 illuminated strips in the front, as well as the interior lighting. The LED strip to achieve that is very well hidden. The light is being cast perfectly for my taste. Especially the color white really makes colorful lighting pop. Furthermore, I find it great that there's also a small ARGB controller on board in the shape of a button, allowing us to switch between different colors and lighting effects. Albeit, the choice is fairly limited, but for users that simply can't plug the LEDs into the motherboards, certainly better than nothing at all. Everyone else can make use of that standard 3-pin ARGB connection by plugging into your motherboard to synchronize lighting. By the way, for the illumination in the front, there are these contacts in place, so we do not actually need to worry about cables we might tear out at all. When it comes to build quality, at a price of $100 or less, there's nothing to complain really. We are for the most part getting some pretty good, fairly thick quality steel along with certain plastic elements here and there for the front panel for instance. But for proper airflow, we do actually get to see mesh. Once you take off that front cover, a partially magnetic removable dust filter gets revealed. Needless to say, there's also a magnetic removable dust filter at the top, as well as a long removable non-magnetic one at the bottom of the case for the power supply. Out of the box, there are a total of 3 very quiet Be Quiet Pure Wings 2 140mm fans pre-installed, rated at a max fan speed of 900 RPM. A fairly good balance, I'd say. One in the front, one at the rear, and one at the top. So there's plenty of airflow at pretty low noise levels. Once we glance over to the specs, you'll quickly notice we're dealing with a slightly different type of approach when it comes to storage, HDDs and SSDs. Well, at least compared to cases with the usual layouts nowadays. Cooling-wise, air coolers with a height of up to 190mm can fit. And as for radiators, in the front you can mount up to a 360 or 280mm one. At the top, a 240mm radiator at max, and on the rear, either a 120 or 140mm one. What I probably should point out is the fact we don't get any rubber grommets in here. Luckily, the cutouts have been cleverly arranged, so most of it is barely visible anyway, allowing for a nice, clean and tidy look. Still, I have to complain about that harsh angle I had to connect that 24-pin ATX power cable in. That's borderline extreme. To be fair though, you could actually remove that interfering element, even though that would lead to exposing a pretty huge, unflattering cutout. The glass panel is being held in place by 4 traditional screws. A nice surprise we get to experience with the steel side panel on the opposite side, namely some sound dampening material. Be Quiet therefore takes noise levels somewhat seriously, which I totally can confirm. Let's talk storage. In total, the PureBase 500DX can house 2 3.5-inch hard drives and 5 2.5-inch drives, such as SSDs. Noteworthy is the fact that the HDD cage can easily be unscrewed and removed, as well as slightly repositioned by a few millimeters. Furthermore, you could mount an SSD to the bottom of that cage. Additional mounting points for 2 SSDs, you're getting up there directly behind the motherboard. That bracket can also easily be removed in no time. But there's even more. To the left, there's yet another modular bracket, the one I've just talked about earlier before. Onto that one, you could also screw 2 SSDs and present such on the main side. With the Be Quiet plastic cover, cables coming to the SSDs are fairly well hidden. That's a really nice, clever solution. What's especially nice at a price of around $100 is the USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port. Finally, we are getting to see those on even more affordable PC cases out there. My usual test system that I used to build into all kinds of PC cases fits just perfectly into this Purebase 500DX. Building into it was a pleasure, no hassles at all. You surely couldn't help but notice, in order I could mount my 240mm radiator to the top, that top-mounted pre-installed 140mm fan had to go. So that lonely 140mm front fan now has gotten some company. A nice side effect being the slightly increased airflow within the case. I find it awesome that more and more case manufacturers even Be Quiet for a top-mounted radiator make room by moving the mounting holes slightly closer to the glass side. We therefore don't need to fear clearance issues with the motherboards, or rather their heatsinks. Obviously, there's no need for concern regarding GPU length. According to Be Quiet, you're perfectly fine with length of up to 369mm. I should let you know though that vertical graphics card installation is not supported by the case. I don't really care for it, since most cards are suffocating anyway when being placed so close to the glass panel. Cable management, I'd say, works fairly well. That is, if you put a little more effort into the task than I did with the little time I had at hand. To sum things up, at a price of about $100, we are definitely talking of a good, respectable case. The Purebase 500DX, in my opinion, not only impresses when it comes to price-to-performance ratio, but also build quality, versatility with a little bit of modularity, and on top of that, there are also 3 very good quiet fans pre-installed. Not to mention nice ARGB lighting without any proprietary garbage. The only drawback I could maybe bring up, although that's clearly nitpicking, might be the bracket hiding away that 24-pin ATX power cable, SATA cables, etc. The idea behind it I find great, but depending on how stiff your cables are and on where your connectors are positioned, you might run into some unpleasant experiences. Other than that, the Purebase 500DX by Be Quiet sure is one really good, well thought through PC case, certainly well worth recommending. With that being said, big thanks for watching and see you around next time.